Have you ever heard yourself say, isn't it ridiculous that I can't figure this out on my own? Or have you needed help with something but feel really ashamed or embarrassed to seek out support from a friend or from a professional?
Yeah. So if you can relate, stick around and you might find some solace as we share our personal experience on this subject of asking for support. And from our perspective also as coaches and working with clients. So hi, I'm Emily. I'm a leadership and executive coach located here in Trinidad and Tobago. I help leaders find fulfillment while maximizing their potential at the intersection of happiness and success. Because I believe that there's a sweet spot for everyone and that you can find yours.
And she does it with so much grace and compassion.
Oh, thank you, Elisabeth.
Yeah. And I'm Elisabeth. I'm also a professional coach. I'm from the United States, but I reside in Porto, Portugal. And I also work virtually. So that means I get to coach individuals and leaders from all over the world, which is fun. And I am mostly coaching people experiencing some sort of transition personally or professionally. And at the heart of it, no matter who I'm coaching, we are doing the work of getting to know your truest, deepest, most authentic self and learning to trust that place in ourselves and see what judgment comes up as we try to get there. But trust it and live from it is at the heart of my coaching.
Yes, Elizabeth. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so awesome, this work.
It is,
So,
it really is.
yeah. And so you guys listening must wonder how is it that Emily from Trinidad and Elizabeth, who lives in Porto, are here together on this video. And what I wanted to say is that just so you know a little bit about us and how we met, is we met back in 2017 when we were both at Invite Change, becoming certified professional coaches. And that seems like eons ago with everything that's been happening, right?
Yes.
So we kept connected, Elisabeth and I, in our two different spots in the world. And but as coaches, we continue to be very, very supportive of each other and giving coaching to each other because of how rich coaching can be in really developing yourself and moving from one space to another, from like from what we call always the comfort zone to the the wild outdoors, the wild world out there. So yeah, so that's how we met. And what's important, what's really always a fun fact about the two of us is that we actually never, still haven't, and I guess with COVID can't yet meet in person.
Yes, I still sometimes can't believe that we haven't met in person because I feel like I know you like we have a friendship that's happened in person, but hasn't just
Yeah,
over Zoom so far.
I
Yeah.
know, right? It's so odd. So I guess we are a product of the new world.
Yeah. And proof that like friendship can happen virtually and really meaningful connection and trustworthy relationships can happen virtually as well. So yeah.
So true.
Shall I
So true.
share what we're here to talk about today?
Yes.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, we're gonna get into this topic of feeling shame or embarrassment when asking or needing support. The reason we landed on this topic actually is from a personal experience the two of us had a couple weeks ago. We were doing our weekly meeting, and Emily came to the time with something she wanted some support with and maybe a little coaching on. The first thing she said was, I feel so ridiculous needing coaching for this. And
Yep.
I was in coach mode, so it didn't faze me at all. So we went on with the conversation, did some coaching, a great outcome. Emily found some insight that she really needed to untangle the situation. And then at the end, I said, now what in the world was ridiculous about that? Because for me,
Yes, I
listening, it seemed like like a really important topic, something that was bothering her, something she needed someone else's perspective and curiosity about. And anyways, we had this big long conversation about how we so often, feel stuck or embarrassed or ridiculous, that we need help for something, and that we've had clients feel that way too. And the conversation was so expansive on the topic that we thought we'd try to recreate it and share it with the world in case anyone else can benefit. So here we are. Emily, do you want to, let's start with just talking about our own personal experiences, asking for support. What do you notice comes up for you around seeking support for something that feels ridiculous?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that comes up, and to be just coming back to that story, because it really is funny. I mean, like funny, like I want to laugh when you talk about it now. Funny, haha, because it really, honestly, I would not have brought it to coaching had we not had a session planned. And it was my turn to be coached. And it was bothering me. It was a personal situation. I mean, to give some color to the people listening, it was a personal situation. And I really, really felt like I should figure it out on my own. Like it was something that happened that did hurt my feelings at the time. It was important. It was an important relationship. However, and even saying that now, it does sound like it is important enough to have a conversation about, because coaching helps us to move forward, and also I think helps us to sort of work through the emotion and sometimes work through the thought processes in terms of getting clarity about what we want to do in a particular situation, and also getting broader insight. I mean, that's like what it always does for me. So it's interesting, like now, logically thinking about it. Well, yeah, obviously it was an important relationship. It was an emotional situation. I wanted to make sure that whatever I did was going to help the situation and not hurt it. So having an independent person who would be objective and who would listen in that safe space that coaching creates, it seems like a no-brainer now, but it really, really felt like, why are you even talking about this? But still, I felt, yeah, this resistance, this huge resistance. And as I said, even if I didn't have that session planned, I probably would have kept on with my own struggle, versus asking for help. And what was actually great is that in the act of asking for help, so much more came to me because of her insight and her objectivity and her ability to help me unravel some of the emotion that was there. Because there are always layers, right? So it maybe was a petty thing. And so, yeah, just having to raise that it really felt ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't received as ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I really appreciated that. And that's the thing, right? I think it was like judgment or of some kind in myself, like, because I mean, they should, right? I should be able to handle this on my own. It's not a big deal. Why am I making it such a big deal by having to talk to a coach about it? But really, it was much more than that. So I know I went on a long time there about my situation in terms of what made me feel ridiculous. And I wonder, Elisabeth, are there times when you feel that it's ridiculous, in terms of asking for help, or whatever the topic is that you have to bring to coaching might feel, I don't know, too small or too simple, or something you could work out, on your own?
I think the running story in my head, whether it's asking for support via coaching or from a friend or paying for a professional service that will help with something with my business, the running story in my head is I should be able to figure this out on my own. So that's, let's say that is like the big story that gets in my way most
Yeah.
often. Yeah. And at different points in my life, I remember the first time I ever like spoke with a professional about something personal, I was terrified. And I've grown a lot since then. So the idea of speaking with a coach about something feels far less scary than it would have like 15 years ago. But I remember when I had never done it before, and the idea of like sharing with a stranger things that felt quite personal to me, and again with that story running that something must be wrong with me, why do I need help, compounded something that was already scary and vulnerable.
Yeah. I feel like that's a universal story though, because I think it's the same story. And it's interesting as you raise that as the conversation in your head, because it's like, it's always a self-talk, right? so
Yeah.
much, so much of what drives us is like this ongoing self-talk kind of conversation in your head, as you put it so nicely. But yeah, I
And
think it's that.
my inner critic in my head did not want me to believe that it's a universal story, that maybe everyone both needs help and might feel a little embarrassed or weird asking for it, that that's a universal experience perhaps, and it's okay. Inside my head, it was not a universal experience. It was something is wrong with me. I'm the only one who experiences this, and like that kind of thinking just doesn't help, versus the
Yeah.
perspective that it's okay to feel that way. A lot of people feel that
Yeah.
way when they need this kind of help.
That word universal comes up to mind again, because yes, in my thought process, it didn't feel like it was something that, again, like it's a normal thing. Like I felt so ashamed about the thing and having to talk about it. And I felt like I was the only one that has this thing. And why should I even have to talk about it? So definitely, I think it's universal that we all feel like that when it comes to having to sometimes ask for support when we feel vulnerable. And of course, we feel vulnerable when we are going to be speaking to someone who is strange. And what was interesting is that you are not strange to me.
I know in our example, it came up even though I wasn't a
Yeah,
stranger.
you were not
Yeah.
strange to me. And so for me, sometimes it could be even deeper than that, just asking for help generally. Because I mean, I think there are lots of people I know, and I think if I think back, even my mom would have been like this, very independent, very, very independent. And like she really valued that, like that was her thing, and I think she raised us, her daughters, in the same kind of vein. So it's not that it's not like it was wrong to ask for help, but in a way we kind of grew up thinking, if we can do it for ourselves, just do it for ourselves. You don't need to bother somebody else. I still felt, maybe culturally or how I was conditioned in my family, that I should be able to handle these things on my own.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's weakness probably in asking for help. And again, that's another level of vulnerability, right? That means I have to admit that I am weak because I can't figure it out on my own. And what does that mean if I'm weak? So there's, as I said, there are always layers of these things in terms of how
For
we've
me,
been
I relate it.
thinking.
Oh, I relate it to this value that my culture and context and maybe like Western thinking places on independence, and that's such a strong value. And in valuing independence, we have devalued community and the net of support that's available to us in our family and our friends. And yeah, that it makes asking for help seem like we shouldn't have to, or much harder than it should be. And I really, for myself personally, want to lean away from that. Like individualistic independence is the only way sort of thinking and conditioning that, and to really look more at the whole and the community. And lots of cultures do that really well and have for, since forever.
I think too, if you think culturally, especially when it's something emotional, which usually is what sort of triggers sometimes the need for having additional support, or having like support like with coaching and other professionals. I think too, the same stigma that is attached to seeking help when you have the need for like mental health,
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. Because I mean, like if we have a pain in our elbow, we go to the doctor, right? Probably most of us, like it's not a problem to go to the doctor for a physical pain. But some cultures and some individuals still feel like if it's an emotional thing, again, maybe I can figure that out on my own too. And I think sometimes too, for some of us, we're just introverted.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we could switch gears. So like even if you think of the clients, right? Some people just have a hard time talking about themselves, just generally, and so it would clam up in a situation, or would feel really uncomfortable, even more so, on top of all of the what we already discussed. But that's that whole being introverted and wanting to um, keep self sort of protected can prevent clients from reaching out to a coach, I think.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience? Have you ever had anyone like that, or any experience with clients that you think is relevant for this conversation?
Yeah, I think people I've worked with on an ongoing basis, it's funny, we'll have talked about all kinds of things in coaching and have really established some trust and moved through some hard things. And then every now and then they'll show up and make a comment like, I can't believe I have to talk to you about this. I can't believe it. Like, it's so ridiculous that I need help for this. And it's usually when it's related to like balancing things or health. It's like somewhere along the line, they've developed a belief that they should be able to do it all on their own and that they shouldn't need help with these things. They should be easy.
Yeah.
So I noticed like people will say things like that, even when we're, many sessions into our time together.
And sometimes we might devalue one side of our lives over another. So we might feel okay bringing something to coaching if it relates to work,
Right.
but not so okay if it feels related to your personal life. And sometimes I find that people who are really good at work and very organized in their professional lives can be totally the opposite in their personal lives. And it's like I guess a matter of focus, but sometimes it almost feels like there's a guilt there, like why am I having to bring my personal stuff over here into coaching? But again, I mean, I always remind people that you know what, it's you and you have this one life, and it's like all aspects of it, right? And they all relate to each other. So when you are trying,
I'm the same. I approach people as, you're not just work, you're this whole person here. So
yeah, so don't feel badly if
whatever
you
comes
can't.
up, bring it
Exactly,
to
because
coaching. It will help multiple areas of your life, probably.
I think it always does actually help multiple areas. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
So even if we talk about something in one area, there always tends to be areas where you can um, apply that information, and you'd recognize patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What have you noticed with people that you work with or in yourself helps them be receptive to to coaching or just to seeking guidance?
It's that building of that trust relationship.
Yeah.
In coaching itself, I recall one client telling me, "Oh my God, Emily, you didn't tell me it was going to be so hard." And I was like, "Well, I never promised it would be easy either." you know? And why I think what's hard or what feels hard sometimes, it's just we are so trained to look outside for the answers. We are just so trained. We want to read a book, watch a video, somebody tell us what to do. Please, can somebody
Yeah.
just tell us what to do? But when we need to sit a little and look inwards, it's scary. It feels hard. It feels, yeah, because we just don't know because we're not used to it. And so, I shared that, yeah, it's uncomfortable. I think the hardness is more the discomfort because we lack the experience, because we are so outward focused. And there is nothing to be afraid of by looking inward. So I feel like that might be bigger than what you asked, but that was one thing that I think prevents people from coming. But it's rewarding. It's rewarding as hell. Like, I don't even know how to explain how rewarding it is. Um, but it really is rewarding to one, feel the support of someone else, like really be vulnerable with someone and feel their acceptance of you and their ability to allow you to just be in that space. It's not a space that you get all the time, it's not always available to us in our normal day-to-day situations, even in our friendships, because people have expectations of us, but as coaches we don't have expectations or judgments, right? So it really allows so much sweetness, if you want to call it that, to emerge as we allow ourselves to sort of come out of our shells. We're right always in there, just hiding a little bit from our plain. It's hiding in plain sight, as they say.
Yeah. Well, what
Yeah.
should we wrap this up and
Yes.
yeah?
Otherwise, we'll talk for the whole day.
No, I feel like we could keep talking for a long time. If there's one thing we hope that someone listening to takes away from this, what would it be?
I think, well, actually, I'll say two things, if you don't mind.
Go for it. The two things.
So, yeah. So the first thing is, I think, although it feels very uncomfortable sometimes to ask for help, it does. Um, I think when you go in the right place and like with coaching, as we talked about, being our profession and our experience, I feel like both for myself and for the clients I've coached who've expressed that feeling of not liking this vulnerability, it has turned out positively, like every time. There's always something you get. There's always richness in the awareness that you get from coaching that you didn't have before, that really helps you as a person to blossom more and more. And then the next thing is that you are not alone, and you are not you don't have to figure it out all by yourself, and nobody was going to judge you for asking anything. There's no ridiculous, really. There isn't. So those are my two.
I think mine is to give yourself a break from that relentless voice in your head that's saying you should have this figured out or you're ridiculous for needing help. Just give yourself a break, because we are not meant to have it all figured out on our own. We're meant to rely on other people. We're meant to reach out for help. We're meant to be witnessed, like seen through things, especially when they're difficult. So
Yeah.
yeah, just let that part of you dissipate a little bit would be my one takeaway.
Absolutely. Isn't she great, people?
All
So,
right.
Elizabeth, yeah, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. So if you enjoyed this, or if you have any questions for us, this will be posted different places. Just ask away and one of us will get back to you.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye.